On Monday, June 15, 2026, at 11:20 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, a U.S. Air Force B-52H Stratofortress, tail number 60-0061, began its takeoff roll on runway 22 right at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Seconds after lifting off, the heavy bomber suffered a catastrophic failure. It descended rapidly, striking the airfield runway environment and immediately erupting into a violent fire. The impact created a massive blackened crater on the airfield, sending a towering column of thick black smoke thousands of feet into the high desert sky. Emergency fire and rescue teams and medical personnel mobilized instantly, arriving at the scene within 2 minutes to suppress the intense flames and secure the wreckage. Yet the sheer force of the impact and the subsequent fire left little of the massive airframe intact. Base officials quickly closed the runway, diverting all inbound air traffic as the scale of the disaster became clear. Initial assessments from the scene confirmed the worst. The destruction was total, and command leadership soon announced that the catastrophic event was completely unsurvivable for those on board. All 8 people on board the Stratofortress were killed in the crash. The loss is felt acutely across both personal and organizational levels, representing a tragic day for the tight-knit flight test community. Assembled specifically for developmental testing, the crew differed from a typical operational flight team. The 8 individuals on board included active-duty Air Force personnel, civilian employees of the Department of Defense, and private defense industry contractors. This combination of military, government, and corporate expertise is standard practice at Edwards Air Force Base, where avionics and hardware upgrades require engineers and technicians to work directly alongside military flight crews. On a typical test mission of this nature, uniformed personnel fly the aircraft and manage primary systems, while civilian engineers monitor experimental telemetry and validate equipment performance in real time. Among the civilian personnel on the flight were 2 Boeing employees, a detail later confirmed by the aerospace company in an official statement expressing condolences to the families. In accordance with Department of Defense protocols, base officials withheld the names and specific ranks of the crew members in the immediate aftermath of the accident. This standard procedure ensures that next of kin are formally and respectfully notified before any identities are released to the public. The tragedy shows the shared risks inherent in military modernization programs, where service members and civilian specialists deploy together to test the boundaries of defense technology. The loss of these 8 individuals impacts multiple organizations simultaneously, leaving a significant void in the military units, government offices, and defense companies that support the B-52 fleet. The flight on June 15th was a planned non-combat sortie, operating as a routine developmental test under the direction of the 412th Test Wing. Its objective centered entirely on the B-52 radar modernization program, an initiative designed to replace the bomber's legacy mechanically scanned radar with the AN/APQ-188 Active Electronically Scanned Array (AESA) radar. Developed by Raytheon and derived from the FA-18's existing sensor technology, this new system is designed to provide the B-52 with improved target detection, high-resolution mapping, and multi-mode tracking capabilities. In-flight testing is a standard and necessary phase for any military aviation upgrade. While ground simulators and laboratory testing verify basic software compatibility, they cannot replicate the actual environmental stresses, structural vibrations, and electromagnetic conditions of sustained flight. During a typical test sortie, the crew flies a specific path within the Edwards Test Range airspace. While the pilots maintain precise flight parameters, onboard specialists run the radar through pre-programmed scan patterns. High-rate telemetry links transmit raw radar returns and system health data in real time to ground stations for immediate analysis. This modernization program is important to the strategic longevity of the B-52 Stratofortress. Although the airframe entered service in the 1950s, the Air Force intends to keep the fleet operationally relevant through the 2050s, flying alongside newer stealth platforms like the B-21 Raider. Because of this, updating the aircraft's sensors is key to keeping the heavy bomber viable in modern network-centric warfare. A test aircraft had first flown with the new AESA radar on December 8, 2025, and the program was aiming for low-rate initial production by August 2026. The flight on June 15th was part of this testing schedule, intended to collect the technical data required to advance the fleet's modernization. Official communications from Edwards Air Force Base soon formalized the gravity of the scene. In the hours following the impact, the base public affairs office released statements describing a highly severe containment environment. They confirmed that the aircraft had burst into flames immediately upon impact, producing a large blackened burn scar on the airfield. During an afternoon press briefing, Colonel James Hayes, the deputy commander of the 412th Test Wing, anchored the military's official posture to the physical evidence collected by first responders. Hayes delivered the formal assessment that the high-energy impact and subsequent thermal damage left no path for escape, officially declaring the mishap not survivable. Emergency response protocols functioned as designed, with airfield fire rescue and medical units arriving at the scene immediately after the crash to suppress the fuel fire. While authorities secured the immediate hazards, base leadership formalized the runway closure to preserve the integrity of the wreckage. These official steps established a controlled perimeter, transitioning the base from an active emergency response to a secured state of official documentation. The loss of 8 lives at Edwards Air Force Base marks a rare and exceptionally severe event in the long operational history of the B-52 Stratofortress. This is the first crash of a B-52 since May 19, 2016, when an aircraft aborted its takeoff at Andersen Air Force Base in Guam after a bird strike. In that incident, the bomber was destroyed by fire, but the entire crew safely evacuated. The June 15th disaster also stands as the deadliest B-52 accident in more than 40 years. On December 16, 1982, a B-52G crashed at Mather Air Force Base in California due to wake turbulence, killing 9 crew members. This historical rarity underscores the gravity of the tragedy. It leaves military safety investigators with the task of determining exactly what triggered such a swift and total failure. The task of uncovering the cause of the disaster falls to the Air Force Safety Center, which has convened both a safety investigation board and an accident investigation board. At this early stage, official investigators have not determined what caused the catastrophic failure. Over the coming weeks, technical teams will focus on retrieving and analyzing the aircraft's flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, alongside high-rate telemetry transmitted to ground stations during the brief flight. Engineers must also examine the physical wreckage, looking for signs of structural fatigue, engine malfunction, or potential interference from the newly integrated radar systems. Because of the complexity of the B-52 airframe and the developmental nature of the test mission, officials expect the investigation to take about 6 months. This deliberate timeline ensures that every scrap of physical evidence and digital data is verified through rigorous engineering standards rather than early speculation or rumor. The Air Force has committed to releasing official updates as the investigation progresses, providing clear answers as they are confirmed. Until the final report is published, the focus remains on the process of discovery, driven by a commitment to safety and accountability. This thorough effort serves not only to protect the future of the bomber fleet, but also to honor the memories of the 8 individuals who lost their lives. For their families, colleagues, and the wider aviation community, the search for answers is a quiet duty to those who died in service of flight test modernization. As the investigation continues over the next 6 months, the aviation community awaits answers. This deadliest B-52 disaster since 1982 reminds us of the constant risks in modernization. Ultimately, our thoughts remain with the 8 lives lost at Edwards. Share your thoughts respectfully below.